You probably know someone like this. Maybe it's your cousin, your co-worker, or maybe your best friend from secondary school, who every time you meet, it's always about the same gist, the same job they hate, the same relationship drama, or the same this year I'm going to leave that never actually happens. And you've told them severally, just leave now. And you've even helped them find another job opening, or help them and mapped out a perfect plan to the situation that they are complaining about. But they always find a way to stay exactly where they are. You've called it fear, you've called it laziness, and some of us has already given up and say, maybe that's just how they are. But what if I told you it's not fear and it's not laziness? But what if the problem is not something that they are trying to escape from, but something they're actually protecting? Well, let's find out together. This is Under the Surface, where we talk about the choices, the pressures, and the behaviors shaping everyday life. I'm Olamide, and today I want to talk about why we protect the same problem we say we hate, and what that habit is quietly costing us. There's someone in most of our lives who has had the same complaints for years. Maybe about the job that they always complain about that they hate, the same relationship that they always describe like a life sentence, or the same situation that they describe as difficult almost every time it comes up. And when someone tries to offer them a real way out, maybe a job opening, an honest conversation, or even a good plan to their situation, they just don't take it. Instead, they calmly explain as to why it's not going to work out this time either. And at first, it looks like bad luck, but after the fifth or sixth time, it starts to look like something else. And maybe this is not even about someone else. Think about your own life for a moment. Is there something that you've complained about for so long that your complaints have started to feel normal and almost comfortable? Maybe an habit that you always talk about but you never actually confront. A relationship that you describe as a life sentence almost every time it comes up, but you never address it directly. Because you see, these habits are quite easier to spot in other people, but they are much more harder to admit when it's ours. And some people even know it themselves in a strange, half-joking way. You've probably heard someone be like, yes, I keep saying this, I keep saying that. And then they just laugh it off before someone could push that topic any further. But you see, that laugh right there, it does a lot of work, because it's the sound of someone who has noticed the pattern, but is not ready to confront it yet. And the way I see it, at some point, the complaint stops being about the problem itself. It becomes more about what the problem is giving. And that's very uncomfortable to say, because it almost sounds as if I'm blaming people for their suffering. And that's not what I mean. Take a moment to ask yourself why a familiar problem can feel safer than an unfamiliar solution. Well, there are a few real reasons underneath that. And once you know them, you can start to spot them almost everywhere. First, there is identity. A known struggle comes with a known identity, because people know who they are inside of the struggle, inside of the problem. Think of someone who says almost automatically every time. They be like, I'm someone who this always happens to, I'm someone who always find myself in this kind of situation. And when you listen to those kind of statements, you notice that the complaint is no longer about the available problem anymore. It's more about a description of who they believe they are. And then a solution to that is like asking them to drop that description and become someone they've never really actually been. Like someone who actually changed, someone who actually tried. And you see, and that unfamiliarity is much more frightening in a way the old well-worn problem simply isn't. Secondly, there's sympathy. You see, a known struggle comes with sympathy attached, because people who knows them with the situation, they understand them, they excuse them, and sometimes they even expect less from them. Think about the group. Think about a family group, or a group chat, or even a phone call with a friend, where someone explains their situation one more time, and then everyone present they nods because they understand, and some even excuses them a little bit. That reaction right there, it feels good because it feels like support. And the solution to that removes that excuse. And when things just don't go their way, the result of their own life becomes just theirs. And that's a much heavier thing to carry than the sympathy ever was. And then there's also the comfort of I would, but. I'm talking about sentences like, I would leave, but the market is bad right now. I would have that conversation, but they probably wouldn't listen anyway. Or, I would start, but it's not yet the right time. And you see, when you listen to those sentences, each one sounds completely reasonable on their own. And that's exactly what makes it work, because they sound like wisdom, not like excuses. But when you strip each sentences down, you discover that what they're actually doing is covering up for a much more scarier sentence, which is, I could have and I didn't. As in, I could have left and I didn't. I could have started that and I didn't. Like, I could have had that conversation and I didn't. And as long as there is a reason sitting right there ready to hand, they never have to face the possibility that they simply choose not to. And then there's familiarity itself. You see, underneath all this, even a painful situation can start to feel manageable once you know its shape, because you already know what today's version of it is going to be. The same discomfort, the same disappointment, the same argument, the same tiredness. But the other alternative, the version where things actually changed, it has no shape yet at all. And most people, if they are being honest, they are going to choose a known discomfort over an unknown one. And it's not because the known one is actually better, but because it's at least familiar enough to predict. And then last but not least, a problem can become something shared, and solving it can quietly threaten that. Let's think of it this way. Picture co-workers who bond over eating the same job, or probably the same manager that they hate, or the same workload that they complain about. You see, that shared complaint becomes some kind of ritual. It becomes something that pulls people together and gives them an easy topic to talk about. And sometimes it even gives them a shared identity as the ones who are, like the ones who are currently going through this, or the ones who are currently dealing with this. Now imagine that one of them actually left and tried somewhere else. You see, that's not always celebrated in the way you think, because they are leaving left behind the question that the rest of the group is probably not ready to answer yet. The question which is, if they could leave and try somewhere else, then why can't the rest of us? But I don't want to oversimplify this, because some people genuinely don't have the support or the safety to act. Because not everyone who is complaining is protecting. Someone who doesn't have the money, the help, or a real alternative isn't protecting their problem. They are stuck in it. And that situation is something that deserves real compassion, not this conversation we're having. What I'm talking about is something narrower and more specific. I'm talking about the moment when a real workable option shows up, like another job opening or a real plan that could actually work, and then it gets quietly talked out of existence. Not because it do not work, but because taking it would ask too much of who the person would have to become. And here's the thing. A story only becomes a story when something in it changes. If you are someone who has told the same complaint about your life for years, the same beginning, the same middle, the same ending, and nothing in it has changed, that's probably not a story, that's a loop. And you see, loops don't need audiences. They only need someone who is willing to keep repeating them. And sometimes, the complaint isn't always asking to be solved. Sometimes it's just asking to be kept. And a kept complaint is a loop, not a story. Here's something practical. The next time you catch yourself explaining why a solution won't work, ask yourself one honest question. If this problem actually disappeared tomorrow, who would I have to become? And if the answer scares you more than the problem does, then that's worth sitting with. Not to judge yourself for it, just to notice it. And noticing it is actually the first real step out of it. Take a moment with that before you move on. You don't have to rush it. You see, the lesson here isn't that everyone complaining is protecting a problem. It's just that most of the times, what's keeping us stuck is not the situation itself. It's what solving it would cost us to become. Have you ever caught yourself protecting a problem instead of solving it? Well, if you did, don't be hard on yourself. Just pick one problem and take a real step towards solving it this week. Don't try to fix everything at once. Just refuse to protect it. Once again, I'm Olamide, and this is Under the Surface.